Namaste, Jai Hind. We all know that Vinayak Damodar Savarkar, who is profoundly known as Veer Savarkar, is one of the greatest revolutionaries, freedom fighters India has ever produced. His activities with respect to Abhinav Bharat Samaj, while he was in India House, while writing the history with respect to 1857 War of India's independence, when he was in Kalapani, when he inspired Madan Lal Dhingra, when he even inspired INA, all his life has been the life of a freedom fighter who always fought for, always synergized, thoughtful, dedicated his life for the liberation of this motherland. His thoughts, his life, his personality was not just inspirational during his times, it is also inspirational even after many generations. It is something called as timeless. Why I am giving so much of introduction with respect to Veer Savarkar? Oftentimes there is a controversy regarding Vinayak Damodar Savarkar's legacies. Vaibhav Purandare's book as well as Vikram Sampat's book, not to mention, not to forget the book by Uday Mehurkar. All the books have given us the new impetus to understand Veer Savarkar. However, the politics and the politicians who always think that giving respects to Veer Savarkar is belittling, or they consider it may reduce the legacy of some families. Hence, they are not doing it in the right context. Well, let us also understand the fact that during the time and tenure of Indira Gandhiji, who was the former Prime Minister of India, she had released a stamp commemorating the life, struggle and achievements of Vinayak Damodar Savarkar. However, in Karnataka, many activists who call themselves to be activists inspired by the writers and writings like the peers of Kuvempu always say that revering Savarkar is doing some sort of slavery to the Hindi heartland or slavery towards Maratha land, but they often forget the fact all the states remain when there is the concept of intact nationality. One India and many states, this is the reality, but they forget it. And they oftentimes quote, Kuvempu was like that, Kuvempu said this. Kuvempu is one of the finest writers of Kannada, who has educated the masses, inspired also and revolutionary by thought, just like Veer Savarkar. We must understand the fact that many of us may not be knowing Kuvempu, who got Jnanpith Award for Sri Ramayana Darshanam, and most of his works are popular, educating even today. However, even the Kuvempu, Kannada's second Rashtrakavi, who gave the concept of global citizen Vishwamanava Sandesha, even he was, and the writer who wrote the very beautiful idea that one nation, Bharata Jananiya Tanu Jate, Jaya He Karnataka Mate. What a beautiful concept. Article 1 has been summarized. India, that is Bharat, shall be union of states, not states union. India is a mother, Kannada is her daughter, Karnataka, Kannada is her daughter. However, Kuvempu was inspired by Veer Savarkar. Did you know this fact? I was reading Kuvempu's autobiography, Nenapina Doniyalli, and while paying the tribute, while getting inspired by loving Veer Savarkar's legacy, the condition of Veer Savarkar during Kalapani with highest respects, regards, love, affection, solidarity, connection with all these emotions, with the emotion of utmost nationality. Sri Kuvempu has written 2 sonnets, and which is exactly recorded in his one of the lengthiest autobiography, having 1260 pages or so. It has been recorded in his autobiography. I will read it. It is 2 sonnets written by Kuvempu, commemorating, respecting the fight revolution of Savarkar. Okay, why I am bringing Kuvempu suddenly? There is a context to it. Uday Mehurkar had written the book called Veer Savarkar, the man who could have saved the partition of India. While launching that book, His Holiness Okaliga Seer Mananiya Honorable Shri Nirmalananadanatha Swamiji had compared Kuvempu with that of revolutionary Savarkar. Had said both were revolutionaries in their own ways with respect to social reforms when it comes to Patita Pavan Mandira, or while Kuvempu has written a poem when a Dalit person who is submerging in a river, how can I sit? It is against the morality. Both were revolutionaries in their own way. Savarkar's idea of liberation of oppressed classes was a separate set of revolutionary activity during his times. All his ideas have been inspiring even today to change the society where the inequality has become the norm all over the world. However, he had compared Kuvempu with Savarkar, and then the cannon burst out. Many fad elements started attacking Honorable Swamiji, stating, how can you be so comparative? Where is Kuvempu, who was an intellect, liberal, completely opposite when it came to the ideological differentiation with respect to Savarkar's Hindutva? However, there is a deep-sighted, deep-rooted Vedanta philosophy in the writings of Kuvempu, which we often forget or deliberately do not mention or do not express that. Kuvempu was a student of Ramakrishna Ashrama, and Ramakrishna Ashrama preaches Vedanta more than anyone else. And quite naturally that influence has come to Kuvempu. However, not beating around the bush, let me completely go to 3 points I need to ask. One, His Holiness Nirmalananadanatha Swamiji was attacked. Many started criticizing the people without having the understandings. They started attacking the seer. The seer was very right, who is a very spiritual head, and he is also doing very social reform activities. Respects to him. But people started attacking, how can you compare? But they forgot reading Kuvempu himself. The people who live their life by taking the names of Kuvempu and Nirmalananadanatha Swamiji, or anybody for that matter, they forget to read them. They forget to understand them. That is the basic problem. By doing so, they are belittling the legacy of Mahan Kavi Kuvempu. We must understand Kuvempu was inspired by Savarkar. And rightly, while releasing the book of Uday Mehurkar, Swamiji has compared them both. For the revolutionary zeals both had, there was some sort of comparison. That's what he was trying to bring about the common ground. But people don't understand that. People want politics over substance. People are often these days do not want the reality, and they do not even read Kuvempu, but they want to claim the legacies of Kuvempu. They want to take the name of Kuvempu. They forget Kuvempu totally. They forget the writings of Kuvempu. But they will earn bread and butter in the name of Kuvempu. Kuvempu, once again, he was the greatest admirer of Savarkar. While he was young, he was also inspired by the work, life and revolution of Savarkar. Nenapina Doniyalli by Kuvempu. That is the popular autobiography of Kuvempu. He has recorded each and everything. Otherwise, the people or the so-called followers of Kuvempu may have distorted it. Thank God, Kuvempu has written himself, so nobody can change it. So, Nenapina Doniyalli, page number 400. There are 2 sonnets dedicated to Savarkar's legacy, and when Savarkar was in Kalapani jail. Come on, this is the reality, and this we must read it. Okay, so he writes in Kannada, page number 399. So, okay. 2 ಮತ್ತು 3ನೆಯ ಸಾನೆಟ್ಟುಗಳೆರಡು ಒಂದೇ ಶೀರ್ಷಿಕೆಯನ್ನು ಪಡೆದಿವೆ. ದಿ ಬ್ಯಾನಿಸ್ಟ್ ಇಂಡಿಯನ್ ಪೇಟ್ರಿಯಾಟ್. Banished, somebody is in the exile, or somebody has been thrown out to some jail for his patriotic zeal activities to liberate the motherland. He was in Kalapani during this time. The date has been exactly recorded, 5/8/1924. 5/8/1924. Just that give you the brief instance. In India, the Khilafat movement was almost over, non-cooperation was almost over, and people wanted a new sort of leadership. Frustrated people, they were looking out for avenues, different avenues. Many revolutionaries were thought that Gandhian way may not bring the necessitated or necessary freedom the India requires. Around the same time, even Subhash Chandra Bose meets Gandhiji and gets disappointed. It is also recorded in Subhash Chandra Bose autobiography. However, I will read. I have written 2 to 3 sonnets which are having the same meaning, the banished Indian patriot. He writes, I am not editing or giving my own words. No, I am just the great admirer of Kuvempu. Through Kuvempu, I am trying to understand the legacy of Savarkar. Otherwise, by following the teachings of followers of Kuvempu, I may have totally neglected, negated, ignored the legacy of Savarkar. Great people always comes to the forefront because of their greatness, not because of the belittled smallness of the people who think by denying the legacy of Savarkar they will become great. No, this is wrong. You are Indian first. And when we forget this, we will start questioning the legacies of great people. Today it's about Savarkar, tomorrow it will be about Bose, then about some other person. No, there should be end to it. And let me read. The banished Indian patriot. British ಸರ್ಕಾರ ವೀರ್ ಸಾವರ್ಕರ್ ಅವರಂತಹ ಅನೇಕ ದೇಶಭಕ್ತರನ್ನು, ಪೇಟ್ರಿಯಾಟ್ ಭಕ್ತರನ್ನು ಹಿಡಿದು ನಕಲಿ ವಿಚಾರಣೆ ನಡೆಸಿ ದೇಶಾಂತರ ಶಿಕ್ಷೆ ವಿಧಿಸಿ ಪೃಥ್ವಿಯ ನರಕ ಎಂದು ಕುಪ್ರಸಿದ್ಧವಾಗಿದ್ದ ಅಂಡಮಾನ್ ನಿಕೋಬಾರ್ ದ್ವೀಪಗಳಿಗೆ ಜೀವಾವಧಿ ಜೈಲುವಾಸಕ್ಕೆ ಅಟ್ಟುತ್ತಿದ್ದರು. ಅಂತಹ ಒಬ್ಬ ದೇಶಭಕ್ತ ವೀರನ ಹೃದಯದ ಅಭಿವ್ಯಕ್ತಿ ಆ 2 ಸಾನೆಟ್ಟುಗಳಿವೆ. He writes that in 2 sonnets, the banished Indian patriot, there is the content is very simple, or let's say very, very understandable, that British used to capture the patriots like Savarkar and put fake charges on them, and then they will be thrown to Andaman and Nicobar, the Kalapani, one of the harshest. He calls it Prithvi and Naraka. That means it is like, hell on the earth. Andaman Nicobar, and it is about the life imprisonment. These things we have studied in the history. I know it is getting late. Let me read his 2 sonnets, which are very important, which gives the new context, new opening, new avenues to the understanding of Savarkar, because Savarkar had greatly inspired many writers, many thinkers, many people, even in Karnataka, irrespective of the language barriers, because then the language not an issue. The issue was the nationalism, patriotism. He was able to connect to Kuvempu, Kuppalli Venkatappa Puttappa, the banished Indian patriot. Sonnet number 1. Sonnet is nothing but a poem which is having 14 lines. Okay, let me try to read it as he has written it. Okay. So, forget me not, sweet land. Forget me not, sweet land. I am thy child. I am your child. Though far away from thy beloved shore, I breathe and pass away. I love thee more. Dear India, remember thy child exiled. I know someday I may pass away, but dear India, do remember that I was your child, and don't forget your child. That is the basic essence of these lines. I fought for heaven when conflagration wild, with heart of hell and clock of heaven, all over. Thy beauteous bosom did its vengeance pour, but Satan wins ere comes Christ undefiled. I fought for heaven when conflagration wild. It means I was fighting for heaven. Janani janma bhumishya swargadapi gariyasi. He was fighting for motherland. When there was a wild fire or conflagration, that is the wildfire, he was fighting against the fire. With heart of hell and clock of heaven. Inside it was like fight like a hell, but outside it was like heaven. All over. Thy beauteous bosom did its vengeance pour, but Satan wins ere comes Christ undefiled. O mother, thou hast given a gift supreme, the mighty, I am he. Hell shudders cold beneath its potency. Happy thy race that feels the freedom of the soul. The dream is but the surest bliss. March and behold. Dear India, hoping for thy better days. Kuvempu is writing while thinking he himself as Savarkar. What Savarkar may write when he is in the jail. That is, perspective of Savarkar has been expressed by Kuvempu. What a correlation. Can there be a better understanding, better influence, better inspiration, collaboration than this? What Savarkar could have written when he was in jail, while suffering in the grave pain, Kuvempu was able to express it in his words. He was able to feel while sitting in Uday, Mysuru, or somewhere in Kuppalli. What a greatness. O mother, thou hast given a gift supreme, the mighty I am he. Hell shudders cold beneath its potency. Hell shudders cold beneath its potency. Happy thy race that feels the freedom of soul. That dream is but the surest bliss. March and behold. Dear India, hoping for thy better days. It's coming Savarkar's words through Kuvempu. Wow, what a beauty it is. The sonnet who has written, I should be thankful, or anybody for that matter must be thankful to Kuvempu that he was able to write it, may not be knowing of the fact, the politics of 21st century. It was written on 5/8/1924. Remember the time when revolutionaries were on the rise. Sonnet number 2. Again, the title will be the same, The Banished Indian Patriot. Sonnet number 2. Sonnet is nothing but, as I said earlier, it is just 14 lines poem. It's a pattern. Okay, sonnet number 2. He has written on the same day, because some sort of he was having the feeling that without expression he may not have slept that day, because that much of some sense of provocation, internal provocation he was getting, because whatever he used to read, understand of the Kalapani, one of the gravest hells, let's say hell on the earth, that sort of punishment. And remember, this punishment was given to the people, to the righteous people who were fighting for the freedom of their motherland. What was a joke? In 21st century, we punish terrorists. In 19th century, in India, British who came to India to colonize India were punishing the people who were seeking for their liberation. Come on. Today the same BBC, the same, that nation makes documentaries on distorted facts, or let's say with some hidden agendas, propagandas. But they do not have that daring to tell the real truth of history, the real crimes, atrocities committed on India and Indian people for centuries. Not just India, throughout the world, the colonization process and neo-colonization process has been most violent, most fierce, most inhuman. Sonnet number 2, Kuvempu writes on the same day, 5/8/1924. Sonnet 2, The Banished Indian Patriot. The same title he has mentioned. अंदर में जो गुनगुनाहट्टी ना ಆಂತರ್ಯದಲ್ಲಿ ಇರುವಂತಹ ಒತ್ತಡ ಅದನ್ನು ಹೇಳದೇ ಇದ್ದರೆ ತಡೆದುಕೊಳ್ಳಲಾಗದಂಥ ಸ್ಥಿತಿ. Only a poet can experience that feeling. Some sort of insecurity. He needs to express it because that is creating some sort of turbulence within him. That is creating some tremors because there is some development which is going on. Sonnet number 2. Ye oceans that around me spread your vast. Ye oceans that around me spread your vast. And endless wavy bosom roar and swell. And oh, though islet grim, earth's darkest hell. That is the Kalapani. Even imagination is impossible. The punishment, thank God that he was able to survive, and the people with him were able to survive and tell the story to the people of India. While staying there, he wrote Gomantaka, not to forget that. And oh, though I led grim earth's darkest hell, but now a heaven to me, rage, rage, thy blast. But now a heaven to me, which is the hell, but now a heaven to me, rage, rage, thy blast. Here stands an Indian, mightiest Indian soul, mightiest with all power. Mightiest Indian soul that smiles at death. When death comes, look at those revolutionaries, including Bhagat Singh and many other youngest revolutionaries who sacrificed their life for the motherland. Savarkar, when the death comes in front of him, the mightiest Indian soul, the great revolutionary, Savarkar smiles at that death. Fiercer than ferocity. Fiercer than ferocity. What a word. If Kuvempu had written the poems in English, he would have reached to another extent, and he would have connected to many more people. However, he has written very strongly in Kannada too. Let us not forget the power of Kannada or his contribution to Kannada. Here stands an Indian, mightiest Indian soul that smiles at death, fiercer than ferocity, and more infinite than infinity. Fiercer than ferocity, more infinite than infinity itself. Descendant of rishis who were the whole. There is no part, there is no partiality, there is no bits and pieces, tits and pieces. It's the wholeness. Akhandate, akhandata, wholeness. Probably in that context, in the book of Father of Hindutva, Vaibhav Purandare writes, he was the first person to call United India. He was the first person to give the call of Quit India. And probably in this context, Uday Mehurkar, Information Commissioner, may have written that the person who could have prevented the partition of India. Look at it. Descendant of rishis who were the whole. The great vision of Kuvempu, through which he was able to see the wholeness in Savarkar. And that legacy came from the Rishi Parampara. It did not come from Western hegemonies. It did not come from Macaulay education. It did not come from 21st century's arrogance. It came from humility and the great knowledge system of this land. That is the Rishi Parampara, the greatness, the wholeness. The wholeness Savarkar had, and whole nation was able to realize it. Whole nation was able to connect to it, get inspired from Savarkar. And Kuvempu was a young boy, was no exception to it. Ye feeble winds, ye pygmy ocean wide, can you bind him from whom you both survive? Can you bind him from both you survive? The Shakti. Know that I am one with that mighty power. Know that I am one with that mighty power. An Indian though I be, it is my pride. An Indian though I be, it is my pride, nan hemme. Pride, proudness. I am one and all. When I begin to dive, remember the great dive once Savarkar had done, which was also inspirational again. The story went to international court to create a tussle between France and Britain. However, I am one and all when I begin to dive deep, oh joy, deep, oh joy. I find myself a great lover. I find myself a great lover. August 5th, 1924. I don't think I need to explain anything more than what has been written by Kuvempu himself, which is self-explanatory, which will bust many of the false narratives, propagandas going around us, stating that Savarkar should be isolated, boycotted, etc., etc. We must see in 23rd century or 25th century, all these things may be totally different. However, the reality will not change. The reality that Savarkar was a revolutionary. Savarkar was one of the greatest freedom fighter. Savarkar inspired billions and billions, just like he inspired Kuvempu, Rashtrakavi Kuvempu. These things can't be falsified. The narratives to it can be constructed, reconstructed, misconstructed, but truth triumphs. Satyameva jayate. However, it was very necessary while reading this, Nenapina Doniyalli, one of the good autobiography, one of the lengthiest autobiography. It is written like a diary, like every day's events. Kuvempu notes it down, whom he meets, what he writes. One of the good way to understand what was going on during that times, 1924. Kuvempu writes, commemorating, respecting, connecting to Savarkar. I think this is more than sufficient, already 30 minutes down the line, and 2 sonnets is self-explanatory. And Kuvempu, why we call Kuvempu one of the great is because for this reason. All the propaganda, agenda and all other aspects who are very little, very small before this great Kuvempu and great Savarkar forget the fact how the great personalities remain connected, influenced, and they do their bit of revolutionary activities in their own sphere of influence. Not a single person can be seen with isolation. No freedom fighter can be seen with complete. You cannot say 100% that they are perfect. I and you, for that matter, are not perfect. And this perfection lies in the eyes of beholder. That's all it is. And rest is everything is our prejudices. However, India is a great nation. We are at the cross juncture of 76th year of independence, and India has a great past, not to mention the so-called the independence is 76th year. However, we have a great legacy, civilizational continuity, culture, and more than anything, the Rishi Parampara, as it is said in this poem by Kuvempu, and also the great virtues which is carried from generations is the guiding principle for India. Savarkar was one of that byproduct. Kuvempu was another sort of bright spot, and 2 stars were connected through the writings of Kuvempu. And this once again proves the fact that even the Kuvempu, whose name is taken by many people, probably to distort his name or misuse his legacies for their personal benefits, must understand the greatness of Kuvempu and the influence he had from Savarkar. Thank you once again. Hope this was useful. The purpose of making this video in English is for the simple reason that we must understand, even in many of India's Desh Bhashas, Savarkar may have influenced many personalities who may have expressed in different genres. Some may be through poems, some may be through drama, some may be through novels. Not just Savarkar, every revolutionary who sacrificed their life, valuable life for this motherland, has inspired every individual of this land, the great land. At this cross juncture of 75th year, it is the duty upon us that the great legacies be carried forward from here. Very important for the youths and for every individual, every Bharatiya to do so. I hope this was very useful, or this was informational. When I was reading this book, I felt that I must share this aspect with you all. Thank you once again. Let's make this country great again. This is a common, slogan given by every country's leaders or every countryman. I will reiterate the same because you all have that feeling to take our country ahead. Thank you once again. Dhanyavad. Jai Hind. Namaste. Shreyanka Esranade.